This is Long Shots, VSiN's premier golf betting podcast. Here's Matt Brown, Wes Reynolds, and Kelly Bidlin.
Hey, it is Long Shots, golf betting podcast here on the VSiN Podcast Network. Matt Brown, Wes Reynolds, Kelly Bidlin coming to you for the last tournament of the year. The top 30 players that played their way into East Lake, in which the dead last finisher will still get $550,000. The winner will get $10 million. And all of the guys that made it this week get into all of the majors, all of the elevated events, all the everything like that. They just put out the 2026 schedule as well. We'll talk about that at a later date. But going to drive you home here. Don't want to take too long and take up too much of your time as we are, down to the final tournament, in which we're coming off of a tournament that Scottie Scheffler goes out, wins yet again. And, Wes, Kelly actually reminded me that this tournament wasn't a total loser for me. I was sitting with him on Friday, in which we decided that we were going to bet against Bob McIntyre. So glad that we went ahead and did that. The no price available over there at Circa. But Wes, I mean, Scottie, it's almost just like it's inevitable with this guy. He just goes out and continues every single week. It is 13 straight tournaments. 13 straight tournaments where 13. He has finished no lower than T8. I mean, it's insanity.
Yeah, and this time he had to come back from behind, which he usually doesn't do. He's a very good front runner, the best in the world, certainly currently in the game of golf, but he was 4 back to start the day. Let's not forget that. And then just a ball striking masterpiece, essentially. I think he was 6th on approach, but first off the tee. And then, when he's chipping in from 81 feet, that makes him hard to beat. And number one also in greens and regulation was Scottie Scheffler. So led all the categories. It got a little tight late where, he gave one back and it's like McIntyre still has a chance, but then closed him out on 17. My nearest pursuer was Sam Burns. I had him in the without Rory and Scottie market, and he actually was tied for that second place at one point, and then kind of gave a couple back and ended up finishing T4. But he keeps doing it. He keeps finding new ways. Sometimes he's dominant off the tee. Sometimes he's hitting it with his irons. Sometimes he's really good around the green, like he was this week. That was another category. I believe he led the field for, was second, I should say, gaining over 4 strokes around the green. So he puts it all together.
And did this without Ted Scott.
Yes. Yeah, he did it with Mike Comrie, Chris Kirk's caddy. So Ted Scott, by the way, going to be back on the bag this week down there in Atlanta. So it makes the world number one even more dangerous. And the fact that last year he was, I believe, plus 115. I was searching through my old write-ups of this event. He was plus 115 with the starting strokes. So
right.
With a 2-shot lead. Now he's close to that with everybody starting even par. That just shows you how great this guy has been all year long.
Yeah, Kelly, I mean, we look, and you've got it up right now, another $3.6 million for Scottie Scheffler as he goes out and goes 4 under, 5 under, 3 under, 3 under to get it done. And so what we do is we have a guy that is widely plus 150 this week. There's one plus 170 still available at BetMGM, but then you take this giant leap to Rory at plus 850, and then another giant leap from there to Tommy Fleetwood at like 14-1. And you look at this, and I feel like you and I were having this discussion as I've been doing some content with you this week, and I feel really weird about doing this podcast because I feel like I'm being disingenuous if I try and make a case for anybody other than Scottie Scheffler winning this tournament. Like, we've pared this down to 30 players, and not only we pared this down to 30 players, like, dude, Andrew Novak ain't winning this tournament, and neither is Jacob Bridgman or Nick Taylor or any Brian Harman. Like, they ain't winning this tournament, so he really only has to go beat like 23 other guys, 22 other guys in this deal. And I don't know. I mean, we'll talk through what we find important this week. We'll talk through how we're going to end up betting this deal, but I feel like I'm just talking to hear myself speak if I'm trying to tell you that Scottie Scheffler's not going to win this week.
I think there's cases to be made. I mean, from a betting and an odds standpoint, I mean, we have seen tournaments this year with Scotty Scheffler in them that were much larger fields that you were getting around the same numbers on all these other guys. And so now we're talking way less players. I mean, you got to take on Scotty like you had to take on Scotty in those other tournaments. And I'm just saying, Rory at plus 850, right? He was the same number a week ago, basically, in a 50-man field or 49-man field. I get what you're saying. I mean, the difference now is the absolute ridiculous form that Scotty Scheffler is in, coming off that win last week. Well, I just want to make one more comment about last week, because I think it's something we talk about often throughout the year on this podcast. So if we're wrapping up the season here a little bit today, I think it's a good example this past weekend of why we like to bet on putting regression, right? And that's really what I think that was the story of the final round of Robert McIntyre. You putted lights out for 3 straight rounds, and finally you had an average round, and you get caught by the best player in the world. That's what's going to happen once that putter finally cools down. So I just wanted to say that. But yeah, it is. Look, Scheffler's the man. I'm glad that we are at the Tour Championship, and this is going to be the last week. I will attempt to beat him one more time. And other than that, we'll finally be able to take a few months off from Scotty Scheffler. Unless I bet Team Europe.
Let's mention the Rory price. That Rory, by the way, who's going to be the head of Team Europe, a 3-time winner of this event, and a 3-time FedEx Cup winner, and has always really prioritized these playoffs. And yet you see him as the same price in a 30-man field as you did in a 50 last week.
I should say, just taking some shots on some guys a little bit earlier on in the year. So I do just have a ticket, although I would not be making this bet. I have a 35-1 on Victor, and I have a 67-1 on Corey Connors. So I made those way back couple of months ago when they were kind of on the fringe of everything, and I thought maybe I'd be getting some better numbers than that. They're a little bit better than available now, but not all that much better than available now, and certainly I wouldn't be betting either one of those guys to try and take on Scotty Scheffler. But I guess I technically have a couple of outright tickets that that have been in the account for a couple of months. Kelly, you have one live still, is that correct?
Oh no, Mo! I only made 2. They're both toast. How's Xander Schauffele and Tony Finau doing? They are not here this week.
Okay,
so I don't think
all right.
That's
so those are both So those are both dust for sure.
I think it's interesting from a betting standpoint this week though, because it is. You rarely see something like this, right? I 30 golfers and one guy plus 150. I think just from an odds standpoint, can you make the case for some of these guys in the mid range? You're looking at 30 to 40 to 1s and just a 30-man field. I get it. I get it. It's one last time. You'll probably like you're talking about, Matt. You'll probably lose to Scotty Scheffler with our winner without markets, and I get it. It's tough to look at those numbers and pass by it. I ended up going very light this week and ended up passing by most of those. But if you want to tell me you've been in love with Shane Lowry all year and you want to take a stab at 60-1 on the guy in a 30-man field, you go right ahead.
So, Wes, we can head over to VSiN.com. We can get the full write-up here, but tell us a little bit. We do know a lot about East Lake.
Yeah, we do. And this, by the way, this got renovated before last year's event. They basically tore the whole thing apart. It is 5 miles east of downtown Atlanta. Donald Ross Design. Andrew Green did the renovation 2023 to 2024. So basically what they did, they removed hundreds of trees. All the turf was replaced. Every green was redesigned. So the course was lengthened from 73.46 to 74.90. By the way, this did play as a par 71 last year. It is back to a 70 because the 14th, which played at 580 for a par 5, was the easiest hole on the golf course. So they moved it back to 530 for a long par 4. Bermuda greens, they sit a little bit lower, but they're larger. They are still elevated, like Donald Ross Designs clearly are. About 13 on the stimp. They refurbished the bunkers. They recontoured the fairways. They'll run faster because they switched to that zoysia grass, which we saw in Memphis a couple weeks ago at TPC Southwind. And, but for the most part, even though they've tried to make it a little bit more difficult, it's pretty straightforward. There's not like really a lot of dog legs or undulations necessarily here, but they move some fairway bunkers up because they want to challenge you a little bit more off the tee instead of just ripping driver down the middle every single time. 8 holes have water in play. Fairways widen just a tad to 30 yards wide and 3.5 Bermuda rough, so can be a little bit tricky. If you're looking for comparable courses, or comparable courses, I should say, TPC Southwind, Quail Hollow in Charlotte, PGA National, Memorial Park in Houston, some of the other Donald Ross designs, Pinehurst number 2, Sedgefield, Oak Hill. So, we'll see what the scoring is going to be. It's been pretty easy the last couple of years. Colin Morikawa, by the way, 22 under was the low 72-hole score. Scotty Scheffler, of course, was the Tour champion with the 10 under par starting strokes and then shoots 20 under. By the way, that is now a thing of the past, as we've been reminding people that listen to Long Shots and view us on YouTube the last couple of weeks. That's all gone now. Everybody starts at even par. So no starting strokes this week, which I don't know if this is the ideal format, but I don't know if there is an ideal format for this event, because it does seem a little bit unfair to Scotty Scheffler if he has kind of an off week and only finishes like third or something. He doesn't win the FedEx Cup. So the winner of the Tour Championship is going to win the FedEx Cup. And all 30 guys, various chances, but, chip in a chair, as they say in poker. Yeah. So all 30 guys can actually win this event and therefore win the FedEx Cup.
You know what?
Kelly
Just
Bidlin,
remember, this would be my last Morikawa cash. That's what it was. When everybody rips on a Morikawa not winning, that's what it was. He didn't actually win, but he got that 72 hole.
He kind of won,
home.
yes.
That's right. Yeah, I won the bet. That's all I care about.
Kelly Bidlin, again, we know a good amount about East Lake. So what stats did you decide to heavily emphasize this week?
Man, I can tell you, I think you could pretty much, if you're running numbers like we are, pretty much take what you factored in last week and run it back. I don't really think there's a whole lot different from what I really looked at model-wise last week to this week. It's heavy off the tee emphasis, looking at distance, looking at accuracy. I think both really matter here with some tighter fairways. But a little wider, I guess, than what we were seeing 4 or 5 years ago. Slightly, not too much, though. You're still dealing with that brutal rough off the edge of the fairway, like Wes was talking about. Premium on accuracy this week. Distance helps a lot. And then it's going to be heavy approach game heading into these greens and a lot of long iron play. I think the notable change, Wes, you brought up, going the par 70 to 71 to the 70. You lose another par 5 on the course, so that's another scoreable hole that a lot of these guys that we like to target can get after. So I think par 4 success this week was something I looked at. That was something I didn't factor in a week ago. That did factor in a little bit more heavily this week. And a little bogey avoidance, little strokes gained putting for me in general with these guys bouncing around greens every week seemingly. But yeah, man, a lot of ball striking stats this week.
Wes, what about you?
Yeah, I'm pretty similar to me. Approach is I think, obviously a good starting point, but I think in terms of off the tee, total driving is what I looked at a little bit more, because it's a little bit easier to gain off the tee here than it is on approach historically. So I did total driving, that's distance plus accuracy. Did a little bit of good drives gained. Also put some distance in there just for some context, because there's not a lot of tricks here. So you can, if you can pipe it down the middle, you certainly are able to at this joint. Distance from the edge of the fairway. Because you get bounce on these zoysia fairways, and this is probably going to be a little bit soft, by the way, because we're going to get some weather. We are going to get some intermittent rain throughout this tournament. So you could hit the fairway, but it's not going to stay in the fairway, so it bounces out. So distance from the edge of the fairway kind of indicates, okay, well, how far are you off? Are you missing badly at the end, or are you missing somewhat close? So, the smaller to the number indicates kind of barely missing when that ball finally stops. So I tried that this week, distance from the edge of the fairway, and then proximity at over 200, because you're going to get a lot of 200s. I think around 5 holes, you're going to have an approach at or over 200 yards. Strokes gained par 4, just general. 12 of the 18 are par 4s on a par 70. Did some strokes gained around the green here because you've got some surrounding bunkers with these greens. The greens are elevated, and they have some slopes that are going to test these guys. So around the green, not easy to gain here. I did some strokes gained putting Bermuda as well, and then I also did bogey avoidance. Even though the East Lake is kind of a meat and potatoes course, if you want to call it that, there are some various challenges out there.
Yeah, not much difference for me here. Like you said, a lot of the same stuff that we've had last week. I did a little bit of tweaking. I looked at the model from last year. I had a pretty good run at it from last year, so I didn't do too much differently with all of that. And honestly, comparatively, the model basically spit out almost the same result. Almost the same results as long as the players were still in the field with all of that. So.
Maybe
Guys,
I shouldn't have changed mine because I did tweak a little bit of my around the green numbers from last year. Otherwise, I left things pretty similar. I actually dialed that back though, Wes. So we'll see if that comes back to bite me in the ass.
Oh yes, maybe it will just come back to bite you in the ass there, Kelly.
It's possible. It's possible.
All right, Wes. We'll talk about the players maybe that don't end up on our cards here, and why we might have faded them afterwards. So let's talk about what did make your card, and then we can talk about some of those guys afterwards.
Okay, and what I'm doing this week, by the way, and I wrote this up in the write-up at VSiN.com, I am going to play a couple. I'm not going to do the without Scotty or anything like that. I'm going to try maybe a couple exactas with Scotty this week, where I at least have some exposure to him, where I'm not just going to bet like a straight plus 150 or 170, whatever the number is. So try to get some exactas. But the 3 I ended up on from an outright perspective, and obviously these are very small at this stage of the season. I'm ready to get hurt again, man. I love Payne, and I'm going to get Payne with Tommy Fleetwood at 14-1. I got hurt 2 weeks ago. At least I know what I'm getting.
I like it.
At least I know what I'm getting. I'm like, go ahead and smack me right in the damn mouth betting this one. To his credit, he did actually play pretty solid last week at the BMW. T4 at the was one of 3 players. There were 3 players in the field, by the way, that are in this Tour Championship field. There are a couple of guys that did make the points, like Ricky Fowler, fell just short. But one of 3 players, Scheffler, Fleetwood, and Hovland, in last week's event at the BMW in Caves Valley in Baltimore that gained strokes in all the categories. That means gaining on putting. That means around the green. That means approach. That means off the tee. Gained everywhere. Southwind, a strong correlation to East Lake, and Tommy Fleetwood, until he wasn't, was the best player in the field for most of that event a couple weeks ago. So I think he could go well here. He's never really contended, but he's only played this, I think, a couple times. So Tommy Fleetwood at 14.
Wes,
go ahead.
I'm filling in for Gil this week, so I'm going to be in. I'm going to be in the studio for the next 3 days. If you want to come up to the studio and put the money in the envelope that you would normally have bet on Tommy Fleetwood, let me and Kelly kick you in the nuts, and then we'll just hand you the money back, and then you'll have the money at the end. So you get the kick in the nuts doesn't come with no money, lost money. We'll just hand you the money back in the envelope after that.
And that might be a little less painful, actually.
I respect it. Go after this guy one more time. This would be Tommy Fleetwood winning too would be the just ultimate. I would not feel bad for the PGA Tour. There's part of me that's rooting for that this week because how screwed up to everything that the PGA Tour has tried to do with the FedEx Cup playoffs and just in general. Would you feel if Tommy Fleetwood won this event? Because we'd be arguing afterward, like, do we count this as like a real win for Tommy? Do we not? There was only 30 guys, and then you just blow up the entire playoff format.
He was saying today at the media availability down there, he was like, yeah, that would be kind of funny if I won this last event and won the FedEx Cup. I'm like, well, let's laugh. Let's have a uproarious, gregarious laughter from Tommy Fleetwood. So Tommy Fleetwood 14-1. I was down to Aubert and Victor Hovland, and I ended up going with Victor Hovland at the bigger price at 30-1, who actually has won the FedEx Cup. Won here 2 years ago, was also the low 72-hole scorer. 8th here last year, 4th in 2021, so I think he likes this place based on his lifetime form. 2nd on the season for strokes gained approach, behind, of course, you guessed it, Scotty Scheffler, and then was 3rd in the field for the same category last week. So I took a shot with Victor at 30-1 and also at the same price. We are going back to the Bermuda, so why not Bermuda Burns? Sam Burns, 30-1, who I had last week. T4 in Baltimore, was briefly in contention, kind of gave it a little look. Really good start, whereas McIntyre had a horrible start, but ends up T4. He was second in putting, second in scrambling last week, so that short game's in good shape, and now he's going to the Bermuda, where he prefers that putting surface a lot more. I don't know where Sam Burns stands in the Ryder Cup pecking order. I'm sure he's being considered for one of those final spots. We know 6 are already claimed based on the point qualifications, but I get the feeling Bradley knows 3 or 4 guys that he's certainly going to pick, and maybe Sam Burns is one of those guys he's uncertain about, so he could use a pretty big week here at East Lake.
Kelly, what ended up in your account?
Those, I will say, are all players that I heavily considered. Ended up passing on all of them, but that was kind of where I first gravitated to. Where those kind of looking at that 30-1 range, thought there was some upside in some guys there that I think those are some pretty damn big numbers in the 30-man field. I was attracted to those as well, Wes, and was kind of did a good job of spending way too much time on this event of talking myself in and out of guys, and Hovland and Birds definitely talked myself into and then talked myself out of. So those, I guess that's just me co-signing those a little bit. I only ended up with one outright there. There's really only one guy I ended up playing. I think I had in my mind I was going to play him the whole time. Played him last week. I'm going to go right back to him. That's just Ludwig. I'm going to play him outright. This is a little unfair because this is where we talk about the different shops. Circa's hanging close to 20-1 on him. I bet him it's plus 1950. I know he's 16-1 most places, rest of country. 18-1 at DraftKings. Okay, that's not too bad. I like that. I bet him there, and then I did exactly what you're talking about, Wes. I did add a small bet on a Scheffler Ober dual forecast, but guess what? That number's even worse than the outright price on Ludwig. It's 18-1. So I only played that small, but yeah, look, the Scheffler fear is real. Only 30 golfers in the tournament for real. I think if you are, I think that's the biggest thing we could bring up this week, right, Wes? It is compare those numbers to win or without, right? If you're really only scared about Scotty Scheffler, okay, then, you playing an exacta 1-2 makes just as much sense as going to the win or without market with just Scheffler. So Ludwig, both those, and I mean, look, this is the recent results have been great. He's gaining everywhere, ball striking. He's gained with the putter in 3 of 4, 5 of his last 7. He's got 3 top 10s in his past 4 events. This golf course should set up great for Ludwig. We'll just have to go out there and get it done. So in on him, and then 2 other golfers that I bet. That's it. Cameron Young, I played in matchups over Robert McIntyre and Justin Thomas. Minus 115 over Bobby Mack, minus 105 over JT. Just Cam Young, I've been on him past couple weeks. I think there's no reason to expect him to cool off big time. He actually ended up finishing pretty well over the weekend there at the BMW. Another guy who's long off the tee, accurate off the tee. This course should set up well for him. And I think when you're attacking guys, JT, we've talked about his accuracy problems off the tee all season long, so willing to go against him. And then Bobby Mack, a little bit, it was more of a number play. I had him fairly significantly higher rated than Bobby Mack, plus coming off of what he had to do last week. Yeah, I'm always looking to fade that dip a little bit. Ended up playing Cam also in top 10 at plus 125. That number was at MGM. It just looked a little off market from where I was seeing it elsewhere, so I did play a little small top 10 play on him. And then one guy regretted not playing last week. I'm back on Russell Henley one more time to finish it out on a big top 10 play on him at minus 118.
Since I made those bets earlier on, I just skipped on the outright market this week because I guess I de facto have bets on Victor Hovland and Corey Connors, so like those
right.
are already in the account. So it's I skipped out on the outright market this week. My card is so damn boring, but it's just it is what it is. I played Rory top 5 at plus 140. He's any model you run, he's going to be inside the top 5, most likely, for everything that's going on. As Wes mentioned earlier in the pod, tons of success here at this course. And so played a top 5 on Rory. I put a top 5, and this is just playing for upside here. Do I think Ben Griffin can beat Scotty Scheffler? No. But can he finish inside the top 5 if he plays kind of the way that he's been playing all season long in a 30-person field? I think so. So 5-1 on Ben Griffin, just kind of playing the upside here for a top 5 on him. 2 top 10 plays, J.J. Spawn and Cam Young. That's plus 140 and 160. Like the way both of these guys have been playing, like the way both of these guys course fits exactly, actually as well. Both inside the top 7 in most of the models that I ran, including some of the stuff, whatever. So with that, Spawn and Young inside the top 10, that's plus 140, plus 160. I have 2 matchups, Ben Griffin over Harry Hall and J.J. Spawn over Colin Morikawa. By the way, J.J. Spawn over Colin Morikawa is JJ's a dog to Morikawa. Like, Morikawa admitted on set last week that he's like, I don't even know where the ball's going right now. He was full on like he's ready for this year to be over with and go and figure some shit out and whatever and stuff. So like, getting J.J. Spawn as a dog to Morikawa, I think, is an awesome bet.
Ironically enough, Morikawa was 4th on approach last week and 2nd on greens and regulation. Look at these numbers. He gained 6.22 for the tournament on approach. That's very nicely done.
And lost 7,000 putting.
Yes.
Right? Like 700
minus 6 strokes putting over 4 days, and about a little over minus 4 around the green. He was 46% in getting up and down on scrambling, 46.2%. That was not quite DFL, but it was pretty darn close.
Yeah.
I think just maybe one below him. But yeah, Morikawa, I kind of feel like this course would be a good fit for him. He was low scorer last year that, I thought about, do I want to buy low? But it's like, maybe I just don't want to buy at all.
Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting. I talked a little bit about this with some other people who bet golf, and it's very interesting. I kind of like Smiley Kaufman being on these broadcasts because these dudes like just feel a little more comfortable around him. He's their age. They played golf with him. They knew him when they were growing up and all this. And so Colin's on set with Smiley, and they're sitting there like having a conversation, and they're talking about the season where he won the majors and stuff like that. And they're like, what's how did that feel? How was whatever? And he looked at him, he goes, yeah, that was back where I actually knew where the ball was going whenever I hit it, and like all this stuff. And he's like, like it's so different than today because every single time I step out on the golf course, I don't really know what the game's going to look like. And, so I mean, he was being pretty honest, basically saying he's just like, doesn't feel it when he's out there right now. And so I'll take a dude who I think is feeling it. I think J.J. Spawn's feeling it pretty good over Colin Morikawa. I think the one other thing I will say, and in a 30-person field, we might not get it at all, but Scotty does tee off last, and he tees off at 11. If any of these dudes can get out there and like get 3 or 4 under or something, and his outright price drifts, I am leaving it open for me to go in on Scotty. Like, I don't know if we'll get it or not. Like, we did see it a little bit. We did see it a little bit last week or whatever. Like
2 weeks ago too, yeah.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. Like, he's off last. I mean, he's literally the last tee time with Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, he's with Rory 1-2, and then the group before is 3-4. I don't know who's fourth. I think Spawn is third, but that's how they do it. So 30 and 29. As I pull that back up, they'll be the first group. So that's how they do the order to start this thing. So like Akshay and Goddard will be the first off the tee, and then Scotty, Rory, and then Spawn Rose right before that.
And it's like any of these We've seen Akshay, we've seen Harry Hall, we've seen Hideki. Like, any of these guys are like capable of getting 3 or 4 under. I mean, Victor Hovland actually goes off 2 full hours before Scotty does. So, again, I'm going to be watching. Yeah, like I'm going to be watching that pretty heavily. If for whatever reason any of these dudes can post a score early before Scotty gets going and the algorithm lets that number drift, then I reserve the right to put Scotty in the outright account. I just I'm not going to do it at plus 170, but you give me over 2-1 and I might just have to pull the trigger. So again, that's something I'll be monitoring. But just top 5s on Rory and Ben Griffin, top 10s on Spawn and Young, Griffin over Hall, Spawn over Morikawa. That's a
good call, Matt. I didn't really consider betting him obviously all that closely, but that is, I don't really think there's any reason to play Scheffler pre-tournament. I think you just wait for that. I mean, the chances that number gets worse by the time he tees off is very low, right? I mean, maybe you might not get a huge drift. You might not get a drift at all, but you're also likely not going to be betting a worse number than what it is. So yeah, I think that's absolutely the way to approach Scotty this week.
Guys, we are not on some of the, some of the sexy names that are out there. Is there, like, for me, I know we bet Goddard up a ton. It looks to me like he's lost his game.
Yeah.
So, like, I didn't even consider him. He was kind of a fade. Justin Thomas was, of course, I fell for that trap. I mean, he was spraying it all over the, like, every time I think he's got it figured out, he goes out there and then he was just spraying it off the tee everywhere. Didn't really consider him. Cantlay is so out of form, and you're not even getting that good a number on him. Like, Cantlay is 25. Like, I mean, for a dude in his form, we should be getting every bit of the same we're getting with Sepp Straka or, Hideki or any of these other guys, but we're not getting that number. So never even considered him. I guess the only other dude that got at least mild consideration from me, and it would have just been like from a placement market type stuff or something like that. Like, Harris English just kind of like quietly just scored. Like, it's like it's
quietly
the top
goes
20.
out there.
Whatever. He was at least, he modeled at least somewhat well for me and was somewhat of a consideration. But honestly, the guys that I mentioned are the only guys I really liked this tournament. I don't dislike your Ludwig play. Obviously, there's a handful of dudes in this field that I think if they play their very best and Scotty plays his B game, they can take him down. Rory's one. Obviously, Ludwig would be another. So I don't hate that play at all. But, again, they're gonna have to have him play his B game. And
right, yeah. They got to play their A game, and they need him to not show up with his best stuff this week. And he's really not shown anything over the past couple weeks to make us think he won't. I completely get that. I think you played a top 5 on Rory, though. I think that's perfect. That is a very, very acceptable number. I mean, you're playing Rory McIlroy at the same odds that we saw a week ago. I mean, what the hell was he at the Masters when we hit on him? I mean, it wasn't too much longer than this, right? Like,
I think the three of us though at 4-1 during the round, but.
Yeah, that's right. I can't even remember. I think it was 8 or 9-1 though. I bet him at the friggin' Masters.
It was, yeah.
I think you can make. I think you can make the case, but it's just it's what you said. Know what you're going up against, and that, Matt, that's honestly where I got attracted to some guys as this week, and then kind of and cooled off because you just got to keep in mind. You're going up against Scheffler. Are you really confident this guy's game is going to be his A game is going to be enough to get it done? So I was kind of where I only stuck to the guys that I really thought could have a puncher's chance there. And then honestly, I think you guys brought up everybody else. Rory was, I thought going into it, my outright card was going to look exactly like it did last week, and it was going to be Rory and Ludwig once again. But not that Rory was bad last week, but he gave me enough of a hesitation to like, all right, maybe that taking that whole week off and let your game rest was not the greatest thing for you. Fleetwood rates out higher for me this week actually than Rory. So, you talked about Fleetwood, Wes. He's up there for me. I get it. Victor Hovland, just like he was last week, is consistently top 5 just because of what he's done with these irons here over the past couple months. Has been sick, and then Matt, JJ Spaun I wanted to say this is the most I've considered him in a golf tournament all season long, but then I looked back at results and I actually bet him at the Amex back in January. So I guess that's the last time I really considered betting Spaun.
Yeah, Spaun and Griffin were up there for me. Sepp Straka, even though he took last week off, Sepp Straka profiled very high. Yeah, I can't he can't figure it out. He hadn't been able to putt all year, and he putted great last week and then couldn't hit his irons for anything. So just a lot of inconsistencies with some of these players. Cantlay, Matsuyama, another one. They can't seem to put it all together. Same with Morikawa. So is this the place where you're going to find your game and get it all together? I don't know.
Yeah.
The other one that
got to be daunting.
The other one that I'm just, it is in full transparency. We hit Keegan, at the Travelers. That was great. I've just been bleeding since then, basically. So it's like, let's just wrap up this season. That's kind of where I'm at. You want to tell me you're betting Harry Hall, though? That dude just keeps finishing, inside top 20, it seems, every single week, and has done so for about 3 months. So, he's a long number that, I get. It's not the perfect course for the guy, you would think, but, man, he just keeps doing it kind of like Harris English. It feels like he's at the top of the leaderboard every week.
That, to me, is the dude that Luke Donald, I think the European captain, should pick for his last pick, because I feel like 11 guys are kind of spoken for Team Europe. But Harry Hall, that shot he hit where he chipped in, I think it was on 17 last week. I felt like that put him on the Ryder Cup team.
Yeah.
I really did. I would take him over Detry or the Højgaards, who have been inconsistent. Harry Hall has played really good golf all season and has been very much under the radar.
Yeah, I mean this is T28 is his worst finish since the damn Byron Nelson.
So here's the problem though, Kelly. Look at the stat profile. Like, he is only doing that because he putts the lights out.
It's all short game. Yeah, it's all short game. I get it.
But so his upside is capped because he's not good off the tee. His approach game is hit and miss. Like, also it's like he has to put the lights out to get these finishes that he's getting. You see what I'm saying? Like that's
Of course,
what I don't like.
Yes, 100%.
That's what I don't like. Right.
100% in the course. Yes, he is not a guy who is a great ball striker by any means. He's not long off the tee, but the results at courses that we would have said the same thing about, they speak for themselves. And he's done it all summer long. So that's what I'm not betting it either. Obviously, I just said he's not on my card, and I've bet him a lot this summer. But right now, the putter is so good that it kind of doesn't matter for him.
Yeah, well, I would say the putter is so good that
ridiculous.
It puts him in the top 20s, but again, like, his ceiling is capped because you can't gain 15 strokes putting. I mean, look, he's gaining 9 strokes and he's still T15. He's gaining 7 strokes, he's still T24. And so, like, it's just like, there's just no way with the way that you play off the tee and you play off with the approach game for you to actually have a ceiling. So that's kind of like the deal with me with Harry Hall. All right, if you want Wes's full write-up and all of our picks, of course, over at VSiN.com. Go in. You can get going for as little as $9.99, and it is football season, so those betting guides are over there as well. So take advantage of all of that stuff. Pro Guide, College Guide. We're even doing an update to the Pro Guide as well, so you can get that and see if there's any bets you want to add to your account. Guys, we are here. It is the final 30. It is the championship winner is going to take home $10 million. Can anybody knock Scotty off the throne? We will find out come Sunday. For Wes, for Kelly, I'm Matt. Good luck on all your championship bets.